Okay, welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is the scene that I just stamped out. It's kind of a funky little scene, and I wanted to do kind of a real simple color scheme here. It's basically using a grayscale type of approach, using just black ink, and using that black ink to achieve various shades of gray. And then going back into what I did on this one, I felt that it could use some additional tone, so I applied some of the warmer tone, light tones right over the top in the form of distress ink. And I did go from dark to light in this case. And what this is just basically doing is, this lesson's kind of about color schemes and changing kind of the emotional quality of a scene. We have kind of the Halloween that'll be kicking off the holiday season down the line, and giving your scene kind of just this monochromatic and dark type of color scheme can be really effective in giving your scenic stamps and scenes that you do with them kind of a really different quality. And in this one, I did go into it and I used this stamp from Edward Gorey and this other kind of skeletal tree stamp from 100 Proof Press, just to kind of give it that different look in terms of my approach to those two stamps in the scene. And then went into it with some gel pens and hit these rocks with some green and kind of a peachish type of effects in here, just to give it a little bit of extra details, to give it some lend it some visual interest, so that in scenes what you want people to do is, well, this is what I want people to enjoy the scene, as an overall, and then, upon, closer examination, they could see other types of detailing in there to kind of hold someone's attention a little bit longer. And in this case, it kind of came in the form of different colored dots in there. So pretty busy in there, but when you look at the overall, from a distance, it just looks like a little bit of other hue going on in there. So kind of lone figure on a hill, or a lone figure on a ledge, trying to figure out a good name for this scene. Hope you enjoy the techniques and the building of this scene. Thanks for watching. Okay, we're going to be working on a 1/4 page sized glossy cardstock here. And I'm going to be doing a monochromatic scene. It'd be kind of my version of, approaching, a certain type of Halloween card. We're not going to be working with the typical, iconography associated with Halloween, but what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be going for more of, I don't know, maybe a certain type of quirky feeling in terms of kind of a spooky type of Halloween scene that might be kind of approached from a landscaped type of angle, being that I do scenic stamping. And, sometimes what you can do is, just by changing your color scheme around, you can be even using a lot of the same stamps that you do. You can really change the kind of the emotional quality of the scene. This is the Boulders with Lichen, by the way, and I'm stamping it out in black. I stamped it once there, and I'm going again right underneath it, kind of changing the location of it somewhat. I don't want to just build it up perfectly stacked up, you know, like bricks or something like that. You know, because I don't want one stamp to look like it's stamped out, you know, multiple times. You know, ideally in scenic stamping, you want to kind of hide the fact that you're using the same stamp in multiple, you know, impressions to fill out an area. And also you don't want to make it, you know, apparent where one image ends and the other one begins, right? So there's a lot of rocks there, probably overlapped from one impression to the next, you know, between an 1/8 and a 1/4 inch. Okay, so there's, you know, a decent amount of leadway when doing something like that. But going back to the emotional quality of a scene that you're doing, a lot of times it depends on colors and value, contrast, in terms of what something might look like. I could stamp out a moon like this. This is the Cloud with Rising Moon Large. I could stamp it in black and it'll give me a lot of that contrast, sharp contrast between, say, these clouds and the moon, a lot of very distinct cloud formations right around here. I could do it in black and it would look just as it does here on the indexing. But excuse me, but if I stamp it again, and if I stamped it out in a light blue, it's going to give me a different kind of emotional characteristic. It'll look much softer. Okay, so that being said, when I'm doing kind of this idea of a kind of a spookier type of approach to the stamp here, I'm going to go for contrast. So I'm going to stamp it out in black. Okay, and kind of decide where you want it to go. I'm also going to stamp this tree from, this tree is from 100 proof press. I like the, you know, that spindly skeleton, you know, quality to it. Okay, I'll just say go right about like so. The cloud and the rising moon. Okay, now I have this area to fill in. I could use a different stamp in there, like Cloud Cumulus, but I'm just going to use this side of the stamp here to fill in that area a little bit. Like so, and I could fill this in from, you know, this blank area, but I think I'm going to just leave it as is. I'm going to fill it in with tone as opposed to imagery. I don't want to have too much of a... I might fill it in later, but I'm going to just see what it looks like just with some tone, because this is already kind of busy up here and fairly busy down there, because there's no contrast between the two since they're both stamped in black. Alright, now the question is do I want to stamp this right now, or do I want to do it later? I think I'm going to do it not quite at the moment. I want to lay some tones down here, and I know I'm going to do it in a kind of a streaking fashion method. So, I don't want to take the chance of some of these more delicate branches blurring on me. Okay, so just kind of cleaning off my applicators, sponge tips. Okay, here's one that's clean already. Let's just start off with black. Now I know this black right here is not kind of one of the more slippery types of inks that I'm typically starting with. This is a little bit of different approach. I can do this in, you know, the thinner Marvy type of ink because the imagery, the background imagery, it's bold right now, and if I get some kind of, oval shape like that, over something like this background, it's not going to really show up too much. But if you have like a memento black or something like that, that might be a good one to start off with. If you just want to kind of play it a little bit safer. Not that this is a precarious method, but I don't know. The Memento London Fog might be good too, but I don't know. I'm just going to go straight in with the Marvy Black. Now see how long I'm kind of just staying in one area? That's really important when you're starting off with some, really dark tones like this. You don't want to try to rush it. You want to try to build up that color and get a good saturation down. Okay, so I am achieving some grayscale colors right in here, just by the simple fact that I'm swiping this so many times, and it becomes like a dry brushing type of approach. It's only letting me go to about right here, and right in here, by the time I get in there with that swipe, it's kind of drying out on me, so I'll try to use a little bit of a lighter touch maybe, or I'll just keep building up tone on the outside in that area, letting that side kind of build up with some ink, so it lets me pull in some of the inks a little bit farther into the scene. Okay, darker around the perimeter too, to kind of frame things off. I'm doing this in, this is July, and it occurs to me that, I mean, before you know it, we're going to be in the kind of the holiday season, so I figured I'd do this right now. Okay. Now, if you're going on with, a color like this that's fairly dark, don't forget some of the basics of color direction, or lighting direction. Still maintain, if you want that moon to stand out nice and light, remember not to tone it out with too many of the darker tones. Now, I'm not working with a range of grays, I'm kind of working with one color and trying to achieve a full range of tones with it. So as I add this down into the rock area, okay, I'm going to maintain some of the lighter, or some areas that are maybe the white of the page, okay? So it looks like, we get this oscillation of light falling down. A little bit of tone across here makes that area of the rock there and there illuminated. Okay, so we get a little bit of variation. And it really doesn't matter where you, have that illumination and shading, but I think having it is better than not having it, rather than just kind of maybe having it all dark around the perimeter and all light in the middle. Kind of mixed up a little bit, so you get a little bit of it's almost like a checkerboarding effect, between light and shade. And I think that makes for a potentially more interesting surface and kind of dialogue between your light source, in this case it happens to be a moon, and the reflected light on the terrain and clouds. Okay. And I don't know, I hope that made sense. What I'm saying is, I think it looks better to have a little bit of that oscillation in here, you know, an interplay of light and dark in here. And again, rather than having it as though, you know, there's some kind of like really bright flashlight in the back of your scene, just illuminating one big area, you know, it makes the subject matters, you know, kind of a directing the light within the scene, rather than something external. Again, like, you know, like having a flashlight or something pointed on there or shining through the back of the page. Okay, it's starting to come together a little bit more. The more I add down here. Again, don't rush it. You know, I'm not trying to make this super dark real fast. And these kind of monochromatics can come together fairly quickly, you know, because you're not working through, you know, layer upon layer upon layer of tone. The scene here, as far as the toning process goes, I mean, it's, for the most part, it's almost, you know, it's almost done. I think I've achieved a full, you know, saturation of colors here. You know, if I want to have it go a little bit darker, I can. And it looks fairly smooth. You know, at this point in time, I don't want to ink up and just go right in the middle, so I'm kind of always starting on the outside edge, the perimeter of the scene. Okay, now that moon, instead of having it so bright and inviting, let's create a little bit more of a moodier type of representation of that moon by maybe making it a little bit darker here and there, kind of like on a Halloween moonlit night where it's kind of struggling to peek through, you know, giving, you know, the people in the within the landscape a little bit, you know, of light to work with, but, you know, not quite so bright. It's kind of, you can't see what's going on in the shadows type of feeling. All right. I think I'll close off the bottom a little bit here. Okay. In the previous 2 lessons, or I don't know, maybe 3, I used some warm tones, and then amongst a couple of, you know, cool compositions. I think I'm going to do the same thing here. Let me try this Distress ink. This one is the T dye. Test the color. But first, here, let me show you what's going on here. Okay, kind of a decent grayscale here. Black, gray, lighter grays in here. All achieved with one black pad. Okay, so what we have is it's a grayscale neutral, meaning temperatureless scene. Alright, now that could be fine. I think it could be better though. Okay, let me lay some of this down. This will look good too with like a cool color too, like a light blue or something like that. I'm not going with any dark color right now, but okay, you see that right there? See how it kind of warms things up a little bit? It looks a little bit more full to me, I think. Having kind of another layer of, I guess, it's introducing hue to the scene. And in this case, it's also adding an element of temperature. So you're adding hue and temperature. In this case, it's a warm tone to the scene. Okay, so it's kind of like photo tinting. Okay, and let me see. Antique linen. No idea. A little bit of a lighter hue than the tea dye, it looks like. Just adding it down there. I don't see a great deal of difference. It seems a little bit more yellow to me, maybe, if anything. Slightly warmer. Okay. And I'm not just adding that to the darkest areas, I'm also kind of adding it on the perimeter where you really don't see it too much, but again, I think it could kind of lend, just a slight additional richness to the scene. And when I say slight, that's where it kind of all is. It's all in the details, for me. So it's not kind of an insignificant addition. Okay, going back in. To me, after I did that, it occurred to me I thought some of the areas looked a little bit too light. So I'm going back into the perimeter and taking the outside edge a little bit darker, maybe almost to, real solid black. Okay. All right, now let's see about this tree. Tapping down fairly lightly and in repetition, building up little beads of ink on the stamp. If the stamp is smaller than the pad, then I typically take stamp to pad. If the pad is smaller than the stamp, I usually take pad to stamp. I'm stamping this tree right over the moon, and hopefully that'll really make that tree stand out from the background. Maybe kind of introduce a sense of drama into the scene by having that, in this case right now it's the subject matter. The subject matter is really the tree. Having kind of a, giving it somewhat of a dramatic effect by having kind of the light source immediately behind it. Okay. Go. And something that I was looking at it as I was going through my stamps tonight. It's the, if anyone knows, it's Edward Gorey. This is a stamp out of a Edward Gorey set that I got. Oh, it was called Kid Stamps. And what this was it was rubber that was on one of those little foam kits, you know, that you break apart the foam. And I don't like that foam, but the rubber was fine, so I mounted it myself. And I just took the sticker off the top of that foam block and I put it there. But I thought this might be a cool addition to this scene. This little stone figure, I guess, I don't know what it is actually. I thought that would look kind of interesting in here. Standing on these boulders. Because this little figure almost looks like a boulder itself, or a stack of rocks. Okay. And there he is. I think I can use some little bushes or something like that down here. I might do that. Let me go grab that stamp unless I have it around. No, I don't see it around me. Okay, I'm back with a couple stamps. It's the Reed's large and Reed's small stamp. I don't know if I'm going to use both, but we'll see. Okay, add in a little bit of foreground here. That looks pretty good. Okay. So that kind of having those angles, it kind of brings the viewer's eye right to that little figure, or whatever it is. Little stone kind of sculpture. Okay, here's the smaller reeds. I'm going to mask off one of these rocks to make it look like the grass is growing out of the rock, you know, some between, like a crack in there. And I think that's just what the scene needed. Okay, some of the grassy texture in there. That really helped, didn't it? I don't know. If some is good, is more better. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay. Kind of a different scene. The scene is so dark. It might be kind of interesting to have a little bit of tinge of green in there or something too, huh? But I don't know if I'll do that right now. If I do, I'd have to kind of let this let the impressions set up a little bit before I went in there with any additional color. That means, you know, because the card itself is fairly wet, so I stamped the reeds wet ink into wet ink, so it's kind of, I can see it kind of glistening, the ink on the surface where it's not penetrated and dried already. So, you know, I wouldn't want to take a chance of smearing all those by dabbing in a bunch of extra color. You know, something like the Memento Green might look kind of interesting in here, and a couple touches. I don't want to get it too colorful though, because I want it, you know, I want it to be, you know, kind of monochromatic and, I don't know what emotional quality I'm going for. I guess kind of mysterious might be the kind of the word. Not really going for kind of ominous, but just kind of strange, quirky, mysterious thing. Kind of like if you were going out for a stroll at night, you know, night hiking or whatnot, and you walked up a hill or something like that, and kind of came over a ridge and saw this kind of silhouette there. You'd really kind of scare you until you realized it's kind of a stack of rocks. Kind of, that's the type of thing I think I'm probably going for here. That being said, I do have some different colored gel pens. Here's a green Uniball Signo pen. Kind of might be interesting. I don't think I've ever used this before. Now we'll see how it goes. Okay, here's the moon. Let's put, this tree really got lost in some of that really dark background. Let's pull out some of these branches by maybe putting a highlight on the sides of some of these branches, kind of that are facing that moon. See those little white streaks and dots there? Okay. And let's kind of define this ridge and separate it from the background a little bit. A few little dots right there. See how it kind of, those dots there separate it from the background. We say, okay, here's a clear distinction between sky and land. You put a few little highlights on some of these blades of grass here in the foreground. Kind of pulls them out a little bit. Otherwise, especially when this scene dries, it'll, those blades of grass will really kind of blend in. Someone asked me about spray sealants. You can go to our website, and in the information section there, it goes into a lot of the different media that I've come to, or my thoughts on media is in terms of my approach to the usage of it. And it goes into different things like spray sealants and I don't know, all the different types of sealants that have come to my attention through different instructors and whatnot. And bottom line is I do like spray sealants on the work. I think it makes the colors seem much deeper and more saturated and kind of saturated in terms of like a freshly stamped card, especially on glossy paper. But even if it's not on glossy, it just makes your colors kind of really pop like wet ink might look. Sometimes the scene's dry and you lose a lot of the vibrancy of you know, wet ink. Yeah, sometimes it dries dull. And by spraying it, a lot of times it'll bring it back. Or what you can do is you can just never lose it to begin with. A lot of times I don't get around to it. You know, I don't know. Well, a lot of times I'm stamping this at night and I just don't feel like going outside, you know, at 3 or 4 in the morning or something like that and start to spray artwork. And what I do is I just spray it the next day or, I don't know, the next week or whatever. And, well, you know, for the most part, a lot of times it brings back the vibrancy of the scene. Some sprays work better than others in terms of how it affects the scene. It should never make the scene smear and runny. But these gel pens here, you have to be careful with some of the spray sealants. If you spray too much of it, it makes those little dots run, because these are like paint or something like that. And whatever by the way, this is the green gel pen here. I'm going to use it, put it down here, like kind of like lichen growing on the rocks. But okay, now back to the spray sealants. And when it comes to gel pen marks, if that's the case, if you see like little marks like this starting to run with too thick of a coat of spray sealant, spray fix, whatever, clear coats, just give it a light spray to begin with. You know, shoot it from distance, give it a very light spray, let it seal and dry, and then you can go in with a thicker one and it should be fine. And your gel pen work should look okay without it seeing. But you know, the thing is just to get that clear coat on there, a real thin one, just to get it to seal off the work, you know, so that if you go with that thicker one, you know, everything underneath it is going to be protected. Believe it or not, some people used to use hairspray, which, I don't know, had, you know, some pretty decent effects, so you can try something like that. And would something like that make your artwork yellow over time? It could. I don't know how fast. But again, something like that, that's not something that I really worry about. I've never really been concerned, you know, that, you know, I want that my scene to look the same, you know, 50 years from now. That's not something that I'm really, you know, thinking about. Okay, I'm really having a lot of fun with that green gel pen. You see it down there on those rocks. I think it looks really good in terms of it serving a purpose. It's adding hue down there and a lot of texture. I think that's pretty cool. Oh, that was a kind of a pale green. This tan color is I don't know, somewhat reminiscent of, you know, the distressing colors, and that they're, you know, they have a bit of yellow in them, so an orangish warmth to them, so why not, you know? Try it out and see if you like it, and if you like it, you can always add more. If you don't like it, then, you know, what harm can, like, 3 dots do? No, I'm adding a lot because I like it, but if you ever want to experiment, just add a couple down and see what it looks like. I need to do some sort of a sunset scene or something like that, and maybe use a gold gel pen. I think that would look really good. Okay, there's the orange gel pen. A lot of little dots. Looks busy when you look at it real close up, but, you know, when you're looking at it from a distance, it really just kind of blends into the background. You know, it's only when you kind of hold it up close do you realize, oh, look at all that texture on there. But I do think it reads from a distance. It just doesn't read as like all these individual dots, you know, so that's kind of, you know, part of the fun of details. Alright, now I'm always using this pigment ink on my scenes, and what better kind of usage for pigment ink and the representation of fog and mist than in kind of a, you know, a Halloween type of themed scene. Okay. Keep forgetting, one of these pads of mine is kind of really, it's like, I think this one is it. This one's brand new. Really thick ink, and this one's kind of really dry, so I'm kind of working in the polar extremes here. If I add too much down, I can always kind of rub it out, so, but, you know, I just assume, you know, not put anything down that I really don't want, only to have to remove it. Okay. Adding it around the moon, giving the moon some illumination and light. I might have taken the moon a little bit too dark. I should have left a little bit more of the white of the page, since this is white pigment ink. But well. Okay. There's a little bit of a cloud between these trees. Kind of getting in there a little bit. You see that illumination right here and right around up here? That's all the pigment ink. It's really, really effective. I find this pigment ink, not that I would do it on every scene, but having the darker background, you know, this is really, you know, showing up fairly bright. Okay, let's add some kind of fog and mist over these rocks. I'm doing it where light meets dark. In the light area, in this case on the tops of a lot of these rocks, I'm adding some of that because that's where the illumination would be, right? If light is shining there, you'd be able to see the mist in the air. So that's where I'm kind of starting off with, at least. This cotton swab is fairly, yeah, it's fairly See how smashed down it is? It's not a real tight tip there, so it's, you know, I want that kind of frayed, softer tip there because I'm going for a soft application here of my medium. Okay. Why don't we put a little mist at the base of this rock sculpture? I think I need some, like a little tiny grouping of bats or something like that for the scene, which I don't have. I'll have to draw that. Okay, putting a little bit of this mist behind the tree. Kind of that little mist behind the tree kind of makes that trunk stand out a little bit from the background, wouldn't you say? Sandwich it, put a little mist in front of it and back of it, creating the illusion of space and depth. So kind of a funky scene here. I just realized something. I did that green and orange right in that lichen there. That's kind of Halloween colors. I wasn't really even thinking that, but anyway, there's one kind of way to do a Halloween type season type of card. It's not, you know, iconic in terms of Halloween imagery, in terms of monsters and bats and pumpkins, which I like too. I'll do something like that at some point, or graveyard, you know. But it's kind of another approach, even if you don't have, you know, like that little stone figure in there. Changing your color schemes around, kind of doing them in ominous tones, black, you know, monochromatic and dark, can kind of give you, you know, different emotional quality to existing scenes. You can do, you know, take a look at the scenes that you've done before and just try them in black, or, you know, some kind of a color scheme, you know, void of a lot of happy, cheerful colors, I guess. And see what you come up with, you know, just change your color schemes around. Alright, kind of lone figure on a ledge, kind of in the spirit of Halloween. Hope you enjoyed the scene, and thanks for checking it out.